If you are over 60 and you find yourself reaching for a sweet drink before bed, a glass of juice, sweet tea, or even a healthy nighttime snack drink, you may believe it helps you relax, sleep better, or prevent low blood sugar overnight. But what you don't see is what concerns me the most, because in many older adults, that one simple habit is quietly triggering blood sugar spikes while you sleep. Spikes that your body is no longer equipped to handle the way it once did. And those spikes don't just disappear by morning, they can damage your nerves, they can strain your brain, and over time they can quietly increase your risk of memory loss, neuropathy, and even early cognitive decline. Now stay with me, because what I'm about to explain is something I've seen repeatedly in my patients, and most of them had no idea it was happening. I'm a physician who has spent years working with older adults managing blood sugar, circulation, and age-related nerve conditions. And one of the most common patterns I see is this: patients doing something they believe is harmless, even helpful, that is actually working against their body overnight. I remember a patient in her early 70s. She was careful with her diet during the day. She walked regularly, she followed her doctor's advice, but she had one habit. Every night she drank a glass of fruit juice before bed. She told me it helped her sleep and kept her from feeling weak in the morning. But she also complained about tingling in her feet, occasional burning sensations, and increasing forgetfulness. When we looked closer, her nighttime blood sugar was spiking significantly, not during the day, not after meals, but while she was asleep. That is the part most people miss. You may think your body rests at night, but for your blood sugar system, especially after 60, that is often when the most damaging fluctuations occur. And the real danger is that you don't feel it happening. No warning, no pain. Just silent damage building over time. In this video, I'm going to show you what is really happening inside your body when you drink certain beverages before bed, why your system reacts differently after 60, and most importantly, what you should do instead to protect your nerves, your memory, and your long-term independence. Because once you understand this, you can take control of it, and that can make a very real difference. Most people believe that having something sweet before bed is harmless or even protective. You may have heard that it helps prevent nighttime drops in blood sugar, or that it keeps your energy stable until morning. Some older adults are even told to have a small snack before bed, especially if they feel weak at night. But here is what is actually happening inside your body after 60. Your metabolism has changed. Your insulin response is slower. Your cells are less sensitive to insulin. And your body takes longer to process sugar, especially when you are inactive. At night, when you lie down, your muscles are not using glucose the way they do during the day. Your body is in a low activity state. That means any sugar entering your bloodstream stays there longer. Now imagine your blood vessels as narrow pipes. During the day, those pipes are actively used. Blood is moving, nutrients are being delivered, glucose is being absorbed by muscles. But at night, everything slows down. So when you drink something sweet before bed, that sugar enters your bloodstream. But instead of being used efficiently, it lingers. And when blood sugar lingers, it becomes damaging. It sticks to proteins. It irritates the lining of your blood vessels. It creates what we call oxidative stress, a kind of internal wear and tear. And over time, that damage targets your most delicate systems, your nerves, your small blood vessels, your brain. This is why nighttime spikes are particularly concerning, because they happen repeatedly, silently, and without the buffering effect of movement or activity. And if you are over 60, your body does not recover from those spikes the way it once did. Now here is where this becomes even more important, because not all drinks are equal, and some of the most trusted nighttime beverages are the ones causing the most harm. In the next chapter, I'm going to show you the first major mistake I see in older adults. A very common drink that appears healthy, but is quietly driving these overnight sugar spikes. And most people never suspect it. One of the most common mistakes I see in patients over 60 is drinking fruit juice before bed. Orange juice, apple juice, even natural or fresh juices. It feels healthy, it feels safe, and many people associate it with vitamins and nourishment. But here is the reality. Fruit juice behaves very differently in your body than whole fruit. When fruit is juiced, the fiber is removed. And that fiber is what normally slows down sugar absorption. Without it, the sugar enters your bloodstream rapidly, almost like a concentrated dose. So when you drink juice at night, especially on an empty or semi-empty stomach, your blood sugar rises quickly. And because your body is at rest, it has no efficient way to use that sugar. Now let me explain why this matters for your nerves. Your nerves are like electrical wires. They rely on a steady, controlled environment to function properly. But when blood sugar spikes repeatedly, it starts to damage the protective coating around those nerves. This is what leads to symptoms like tingling in the feet, burning sensations, numbness in the toes, or even reduced balance. These are early signs of neuropathy, and in many older adults, it starts quietly, often linked to patterns like nighttime sugar spikes. Now, what should you do instead? If you feel the need to drink something before bed, shift away from anything with concentrated sugar. Choose water, or a non-sweet herbal tea, or something that does not trigger a glucose spike. This small change alone can reduce overnight stress on your system. But juice is only the beginning, because in the next chapter, I'm going to show you another hidden cause, something many seniors consume at night without realizing it affects both blood sugar and sleep quality at the same time. And this is where the risk begins to compound. Another common nighttime habit that raises concern is drinking sweetened tea or milk-based drinks before bed. Many older adults rely on these as part of a calming routine. A warm cup of tea with sugar, milk with honey, or even flavored milk drinks. It feels comforting, it feels traditional, and it often becomes a nightly ritual. But here is what most people don't realize. When you combine sugar with a slow metabolic state, like the one your body enters at night, you create a prolonged glucose elevation. And unlike daytime spikes, nighttime spikes tend to last longer. Now let's add another layer to this: sleep. Your body depends on stable blood sugar to maintain restful sleep cycles. But when your glucose rises and falls unpredictably during the night, it can disrupt your sleep architecture. You may not fully wake up, but your brain does. This leads to lighter sleep, more frequent awakenings, feeling tired in the morning, and reduced mental clarity during the day. Over time, poor sleep combined with unstable blood sugar creates a compounding effect. It affects your brain, it affects your memory, and it increases your vulnerability to cognitive decline. Now here is the key action step. If you need a bedtime routine, keep it simple and neutral. Avoid adding sugar to drinks. Avoid sweetened milk or processed beverages. Stick to unsweetened options, because the goal is not just to fall asleep. The goal is to protect your brain while you sleep. But this is only one part of the picture. In the next chapter, we are going deeper into what happens when these patterns continue and how they begin to affect your memory in ways that many older adults don't connect to blood sugar at all. This is where the long-term consequences begin to appear, because repeated nighttime blood sugar spikes don't just affect your nerves or your sleep, they begin to impact your brain in a very direct way. Many people assume memory loss is simply part of aging. They say things like, "I'm getting older, of course I forget things." But what I want you to understand is this: not all memory decline is normal. Some of it is driven by metabolic stress, especially from unstable blood sugar. Your brain relies on a steady supply of energy. Too little glucose is a problem, but too much, especially in spikes, is equally damaging. When blood sugar rises sharply, it triggers inflammation. And over time, that inflammation affects brain cells, particularly in areas responsible for memory and learning. Now think of your brain like a delicate network. If the environment around that network becomes unstable, too much sugar, too much inflammation, the connections begin to weaken. This can show up as forgetting names more often, losing track of conversations, difficulty concentrating, or feeling mentally slower than before. And here is what makes this serious. These changes often happen gradually, so people adjust to them instead of recognizing them as warning signs. Now, what can you do? First, recognize that your nighttime habits matter more than you think. Second, reduce any source of rapid sugar intake before bed. And third, monitor how your body responds over time. Because when you stabilize your blood sugar at night, you are not just helping your body, you are protecting your brain. But we are not done yet, because there is another hidden factor that makes nighttime spikes even more dangerous in older adults, and most people have never been told about it. Before we go further, I want to ask you something simple. If you are over 60 and you've ever experienced tingling in your feet, waking up tired, or needing something sweet at night, just take a moment and acknowledge that, because you are not alone. In fact, I would like you to think about this honestly. Have you ever reached for something sweet before bed without really questioning it? This is important because awareness is the first step toward control. Now let me explain something that ties all of this together. Your body has a natural rhythm, a cycle that regulates hormones, including insulin. At night, your body becomes less efficient at handling glucose. This is not a flaw. It is a biological pattern. But after 60, this pattern becomes more pronounced. Your system is slower, your response is weaker, and your recovery takes longer. So the same drink that might not have affected you years ago now creates a much stronger impact. That is why many older adults begin to notice symptoms later in life, even if their habits haven't changed. Now here is the key insight. It is not just what you drink, it is when you drink it. Timing matters, and nighttime is when your body is least prepared to handle sugar. So if you want to reduce damage, one of the simplest steps is this. Avoid sugar intake in the final hours before sleep. This single adjustment can shift your entire overnight metabolic pattern. And in the next chapter, I'm going to show you what happens if these spikes continue unchecked, because this is where the risk becomes more serious and more difficult to reverse. When nighttime blood sugar spikes continue over weeks, months, or years, the damage begins to move beyond early symptoms. This is where more serious complications start to develop, and many older adults don't connect these conditions back to something as simple as a bedtime drink. Let's talk about circulation. Your small blood vessels, especially in your feet, eyes, and brain, are extremely sensitive to changes in blood sugar. Repeated spikes act like a slow irritation. Over time, the inner lining of those vessels becomes damaged. This lining, called the endothelium, is responsible for keeping blood flow smooth and controlled. But when it is exposed to high glucose levels repeatedly, it begins to stiffen and lose function. Now imagine those same narrow pipes becoming rough on the inside. Blood flow becomes less efficient, oxygen delivery is reduced, and tissues begin to suffer. This is how problems like poor circulation in the legs, slower wound healing, vision changes, and increased stroke risk can begin to develop. And here is what makes this particularly concerning. These changes do not happen suddenly. They build quietly, which means by the time symptoms become obvious, the damage has already been present for some time. Now, this is where your actions matter most, because early intervention before severe damage occurs can slow or even prevent progression. So what should you focus on? Protect your blood vessels at night, avoid sugar intake before sleep, keep hydration steady with non-sweet fluids, and maintain consistent patterns, because your body responds best to stability. In the next chapter, we are going to address an important misconception, something many seniors are told about low blood sugar at night, and why that advice can sometimes lead to the exact opposite problem. Many older adults are told to eat or drink something before bed to prevent low blood sugar during the night, and in certain medical situations, that advice can be appropriate. But here is the problem. For the majority of seniors, especially those not on medications that cause hypoglycemia, this habit is unnecessary, and in many cases, it creates more harm than protection. Now let me clarify something important. True nighttime low blood sugar is not as common as people think, but fear of it is very common. So people respond by adding sugar before bed, just in case. And that just in case becomes a nightly pattern. But instead of preventing a problem, it creates repeated spikes. And over time, those spikes are far more damaging than the rare risk of a drop. Now, what should you do instead? First, understand your actual risk. If you are on medications that affect blood sugar, discuss nighttime patterns with your doctor. But if you are not, there is usually no need to consume sugar before bed. Second, focus on balance during the day. Stable meals, consistent timing, avoiding large sugar loads in the evening because your nighttime stability begins with your daytime habits. And finally, trust your body's signals. If you are not experiencing symptoms of low blood sugar, do not assume you need to prevent it with sugar. This is where many well-intentioned habits go wrong. Now, in the next chapter, I'm going to bring everything together and show you exactly what you should do starting today to protect your blood sugar, your nerves, and your memory. Now, let's bring this into clear, practical action, because understanding the problem is important. But what you do next is what protects your health. If you are over 60, here is what I want you to focus on starting today. First, eliminate sweet drinks before bed. That includes fruit juice sweetened tea milk with added sugar or honey-flavored beverages. Even small amounts matter when your body is in a resting state. Second, create a clean nighttime window. Try to avoid calorie intake at least 2 to 3 hours before sleep. This allows your blood sugar to stabilize naturally. Third, choose neutral options if you need something. Water is best. Unsweetened herbal tea is acceptable. Keep it simple. Fourth, observe your symptoms. Pay attention to tingling or numbness, sleep quality, morning fatigue, mental clarity. These are signals your body is giving you, and they often improve when nighttime spikes are reduced. Fifth, stay consistent. Your body responds to patterns, so the more stable your routine, the better your system can regulate itself. Now, here is something important to remember. You do not need a complicated plan. You need a clear one. And often the most powerful changes are the simplest ones, when they are done consistently. In the final chapter, I'm going to leave you with one key action you can take tonight, and why catching this early can protect your independence in the years ahead. Let's take a moment to bring this back to what truly matters. If you are over 60, your body is still capable of protecting itself, but it needs the right conditions, and small habits, especially at night, can either support that protection or quietly work against it. The real risk we talked about today is not just a drink before bed. It is the pattern of silent blood sugar spikes that can damage your nerves, affect your memory, and strain your circulation over time. And the reason this matters is simple. These changes can lead to loss of sensation, reduced mobility, and even loss of independence if they are allowed to progress. But here is the reassuring part. You can interrupt this pattern, starting tonight. Your one immediate action is this. Remove any sweet drink from your bedtime routine. Replace it with something neutral or nothing at all. Give your body the chance to stabilize overnight. That single step can begin to reduce stress on your system almost immediately. And over time, it can help protect the very systems that allow you to stay active, clear-minded, and independent. Now, I want you to remember something important. Early awareness is powerful. The sooner you recognize these patterns, the more control you have over your outcome. So if this information helped you, consider sharing it with someone you care about, someone over 60 who may have the same habit and doesn't realize the risk. And if you want more clear, medically grounded guidance on protecting your health as you age, make sure you are subscribed, because there is more you can do, and I will continue to guide you through it. Take care of your body, pay attention to the small habits, and give your system the stability it needs to support you for years to come.